some reason. I don't know. Oh, here we go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Singapore. Hopefully, you can hear us now. So, big apologies for the technical issues earlier. My name is Edward Hunter, and I'm joined by Ryan Ferris. Unfortunately, not by broadcast director Patrik Hanko, but by Thomas Lenz, our race director, who has very kindly jumped in at the last minute. This is the 7th round of the 2025 Formula SimRacing Pro Championship on the streets of Singapore, where Istvan Singel starts on pole position. Ryan, this should be a very, very interesting round of the championship. I think Singel was on pole by about half a second there, so he's looking very, very confident with Van den Hudding alongside him.
Yeah, and it's going to potentially be, well, hopefully not another dominant performance from Singel, and hopefully Van den Hudding's managed to find a bit of race pace once again and follow on with the challenges that he had in Silverstone and before. Obviously, a bit of a rough patch in Spa for Van den Hudding, so hopefully he can bounce back from that.
Yeah, definitely one to forget. Many, many incidents filled that race as we see the grid just starting to populate ahead of the formation laps. So we'll have a chance once they get off the line to just go through the grid. As you can see right at the back is David O'Reilly for the returning Seven Arrows team. Seven Arrows. And that's David O'Reilly's squad that Thomas Lenz, our broadcast director, also used to drive for back in the day, back in the Academy Championship. So good to see David go from race direction to filling out a seat at the back of the grid, although he does very well not to hit the back of Juri Kotochvil, who himself had gotten an issue for hitting the back of someone on the formation lap at Spa. So David O'Reilly nearly. We got the race steward and the race director on the back row of the grid. So carnage guaranteed back there, it seems.
Yeah,
ironically enough.
The FSR staff seem to be causing chaos and carnage on formation laps at the moment. It seems like that's their secondary job.
So anyway, let's have a brief look at how the starting grid forms. So we have got Istvan Singel. Oh, that's the intro. We got Istvan Singel on pole position from Ruben van den Hudding alongside him on the front row. Row 2 is Cedric Bill, who we believe might be starting on the soft tyre, according to our timing screen. Giuseppe Canzonieri, man second in the championship. He is 4th on the grid. He's got to clear Bill and his teammate if he wants to challenge Singel for victory once more. Costas Galnamadis, the Greek driver in the Optimal, lines up 5th just ahead of David Aghayan. Nandor Marsa is 7th for Go Team. Then it is Amin Sweezy for Cellspot, who lines up 8th at the back of row 4. Then we got our new entry at the start of row 5, Saba Elekis for Optimal, filling in for the rest of the season for Sander Van Leeuwen, or replacing Van Leeuwen, I should say. Persis Miriam joins him, and he will be in 10th position. Mattia Feligni lines up 11th, just ahead of Jared Batala, the Spaniard, in 12th. Olivier Demolians qualified 13th, but we think has gone back to the pit lane. He is the man who exploited the loophole in the rules, Demolians, and did the entire race at Spa on the mediums and finished 5th as a result. We have closed that loophole. Nobody's going to be able to try that again, least of all Olivier Demolians. So well done, Olivier, but also don't do it again. In 14th is Mihaela Vincentievich for MV Conquest. Leila Petraglia for ELK makes her 3rd start from 15th position. Sigurd Frey, who I was told would not be in the race, has managed to make it last minute due to the delays. He lines up 16th. Juri Kotochvil is 17th. And then David O'Reilly at the very back of the grid, making his 1st start in a number of years. But David O'Reilly, the Australian, very, very experienced. Will be interesting to see. It could well be a race of attrition, and O'Reilly, the wise head on his shoulders, could be looking to take advantage. And as we see Singel and Van den Hudding waiting patiently for the start.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what O'Reilly can do. Obviously, not able to set a time in qualifying. I think he was somewhat involved in helping
Yes,
the issues of the stream. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make his way through the field at all.
Yeah, exactly. Key part of the leadership and consultancy as well, David O'Reilly, as well as doing race direction then, as we see the lights about to illuminate then, and when they go out, the Singapore Grand Prix will begin. The 7th round of the Pro Championship waiting to begin in earnest, and it's Van Singel looking to take his 5th win as there's Demolians at the exit of the pit lane, but it is Van den Hudding that's made a monster start into turn 1, gets alongside, it's Van Singel, pushes him wide a little bit into the runoff, and it's Van den Hudding, the Dutchman, that takes the lead coming out of turn 3 from Singel, Bill, Galliamart up to 4th, Cantoneri down to 5th, and Akhayan now is trying to go up the inside of him into turn 4, and he has done so. A terrible start for Giuseppe Cantoneri, and look at Cedric Bill, he's having a go at single now as they go down towards turn 7, Memorial Corner. Can Cedric Bill go for P2? No, he can't, but look at Cantoneri fighting back past Galliamart and Akhayan there. So Cantoneri immediately not taking that assault on the first lap, sitting down, but Singel crucially loses the lead to Van den Hudding.
I was quite surprised to see Bill backing out of that move, because they were pretty much side by side going into that corner there, and you want to see the fact that he's on soft tyres. He wants to be making advantage of that in the early stages of this stint, because they're definitely going to be falling away towards the end of this one.
Yeah, but I wonder maybe as well, Cedric Bill, knowing that he's on 86 points and Single's on 142, there's a sense that it's really Single versus Cantoneri for the Drivers' Championship, and Cedric Bill doesn't want to clumsily take out Single on the first lap. If you remember this race last season, Davide Zanini and Peter Knapp ended up winning the Academy Championship in the Canada round at Singapore last year. They had a huge crash at that very corner that was very, very controversial, and Peter Knapp was not best pleased about it in the end, and that led to a valet victory. And now Van den Hudding, much like Dano Brandholm and Sergio Fletcher in Academy and Pro before him, is leading here at Singapore as we cut to Amin Sweezy, who's got a Go team in front and a Go team behind. Marsa in front of him, and Miram weaving around in the rear view mirrors then. So Sweezy has kept his nose clean at the start here, but the cell spot, you sense, eager to move forward and try and challenge for the top 6 here.
Yep, and we did see Miram and Sweezy being a bit rapid earlier, and I think Akhayan in the qualifying was setting purple sectors, but a slight mistake in his final in the final sector saw him miss out on pole position and a decent lap grid position, so he's potentially on to.
There we go. There's Drew Katotrell defending from David O'Reilly and Olivier Demolians. O'Reilly up the inside of the turn 9. Oh! And no space left. The two officials collide, and it's Demolians that takes advantage to get up to 14th position there. So yeah, that was not O'Reilly's finest moment there, but it was bold to try around the outside. But yeah, I think Drew Katotrell is probably not going to be, he might, ironically enough, our race steward might be penalising that one later on.
Yeah. He'll be assessing himself for that, and it was very
deciding he did nothing wrong. Yes.
Yeah, to be decided after the race, and yeah, he definitely a bit opportunistic there. The door was open, but inevitably it was going to be closed by the time he made it to the corner. But back at the front, still Van den Hudding with a fairly commanding advantage of nearly 3 seconds.
Yeah, he's built that up very, very quickly now, as this is Sigurd Frey. No, this is Demolians. No, that's a Katochville then, about to be dived up the inside. It was from quite a way back. It was ambitious. You can't fault the ambition there, but certainly O'Reilly
yeah,
a little bit of a mess there.
You saw Katochville. He definitely had he lit the rear wheels up out of the corner and lost a lot of drive there. And I think O'Reilly saw that and thought this was an opportunity to go through, but not a big enough opportunity there.
Yeah, and turn 9 there, that's also the corner where anybody who was watching Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Super League will know that's where Jan Grankvist got taken out in that race, because he tried a very similar move, trying to go around the outside of that corner, ended up being squeezed into the wall and bounced into the air quite dramatically. So it can happen even at the very, very top level, sort of World Championship level, which Jan Grankvist has absolutely competed there in the past and is a Super League champion to boot. So even he can get caught out by that sort of thing. Rightly or wrongly, I think it definitely wasn't Grankvist's fault in that instance. As for the O'Reilly Katochville collision, again, we'll have to let Scott Flack, I think, adjudicate on that one, our other steward, as we ride on board with Bill, who is seeing Ruben Van den Hudding disappear into the distance, and He's kept with Singel. He's not really looked close enough to really man a move. He's a 10th quicker the previous lap. As you can see, he almost is more worried about Canzonieri behind him. And if Bill's softs start going off very, very quickly here, he could find himself in a difficult position, having to pit early and try and undercut his rivals for that podium position.
Yeah, and obviously, as I said earlier, I was quite surprised he didn't go for that move. I know you say he's potentially thinking about the championship, but at the end of the day, he's got his own championship to think about, and he's a race driver at the end of the day, so he should be making those moves. But obviously happy enough at the moment to sit in behind Single. He's got Canzonieri not too far behind, and obviously we look further on back to Galatis and Aghaya being chased down by Marsa. I was going to point out, if you haven't already, it seems like Frey at the back of the field has had some sort of issue, as we saw him pretty much 13 seconds off the back of everyone else.
Yeah, and Kratochvil in the pits as well, as you see Aghaya very close to the wall on the outside at the Singapore Sling as he chases down his relatively new teammate Galnamadis, but he's got Marsa as well closing in behind him. So tricky situation here for Optimal eSports. Remember, they're in a battle with Valet for the team's championship. 42 points between them at the moment, but Valet have got both their cars ahead of both of the Optiminals, and if Marsa can start causing problems for their second car, that can make things a lot more difficult for them there. So Valet really sensing to take advantage of their strong start to the race. Canzonieri as well may fancy a go at Bill before too long as well. So it's really starting to hot up here in these early laps, and it's going to be fascinating to see what Bill does on strategy here. Definitely don't think he's going to be going softs all the way to the end, because not only is that now illegal, but it probably will mean he's into the pits way too many times than he'd ideally want to be. As now we see Bill closing in again towards the back of Istvan Singel. He was 3/10 quicker the previous lap, this time a lot closer. The DRS is open, push the pass in full effect. He goes round the outside into turn 7, late on the brakes, keeps it within track limits. He's going to have the inside for turn 8, and Istvan Singel will have to, nearly be run into the wall there. And here comes Canzonieri, who's now right behind him. So very aggressive from Bill, but Singel left him just enough room as well to complete that move.
Brilliant bit of driving there from Bill, and he must have been listening to me, because he definitely wasn't hanging about that time to get the move done. And now Single under pressure from his championship rival Canzonieri.
Is he Cedric Bill or Cedric the Bull? The way he was barging Istvan out of the way there a little bit. But now Singel senses there could be more pain as Canzonieri, as we go down out of turn 14 and 15, down the long sort of back straight that's been created here. This could be another opportunity for Canzonieri to dive up the inside, but he's not quite close enough. And no DRS on this particular back straight, so he will have to wait for that run towards Memorial Corner again, and you have to be within 7/10. Remember, you can see Galnamartis is within about 2 seconds of this battle, and you can see Bill now, fastest first sector of the race, starting to pull away, but Van den Hudding has really made hay here. 5 seconds to the good, and this is looking very, very promising for Valet eSports at the moment. If only they could get Canzonieri onto the podium as well, that would do maximum damage in the teams table. The other unfortunate thing is Van den Hudding having basically 2 non-scoring races so far this season. They've almost got the wrong man in the lead, essentially. They would prefer to have Canzonieri up there, but Canzonieri immediately passes Singel, and that could be a crucial moment in the championship there. Canzonieri into 3rd position, and Singel from pole position is down to the 4th. And after a tough start, I wonder, is this Van Singel just trying to save tyres, or is he genuinely struggling here? I think he could be in real trouble now.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Obviously, this is a bit off colour for the dominant Single that we've seen all season. It can be a fairly tyre abrasive circuit, this Singapore track. So whether or not he's going a bit longer and trying to go for a one-stop where others may have to go for a 2-stop strategy, I think Bill will certainly have to go for either a stint on the hards or 2 stints on the mediums, potentially. But we'll see how this all pans out, as we now see Galamatis catching very quickly onto the back of Single.
Yeah, 2 teammates here at Optimal. How will they play this? because you really don't want to make a clumsy half move on the championship leader, especially when it's your teammate as well. If I were Remco Desir, I'd be feeling a bit nervous now. 3 optimals in a row and all fighting for 4th. This is not a situation Istvan Singal has gotten used to. And yeah, this is usually, we saw in Pro last season, Singal took advantage of a lot of attrition to finish, I think it was P7, or he might have been running in P7 and then got taken out in a crazy finish with some of the valets at the very end of last season's race. It was one of the 2 outcomes, I can't remember which. I think I'm getting mixed up. I think it was Singal that finished P7. Yes, I was right the first time. So he took advantage of a bit of chaos ahead of him with the valleys, including Lucas Murno, I think, trying to finish the race on 3 wheels. I do remember that being quite... Oh, no, it was only 2 wheels. He didn't have any front wheels at all after colliding with, I think it was Matthias Harvig at turn 9, funnily enough. Anyway.
The 3 optiminals all together, so this would make for a great team photo, albeit they're 4th, 5th and 6th at the moment.
And they've got Marsa and Sweezy closing in on them as well. So it's not like they can decide amongst themselves. They have got to get on with it. If Istvan Singal is genuinely struggling, there might be no option to see.
There.
Oh dear, Kotochville has hit trouble. And I think he's had to go back into the pits. As there we go, straight on at turn 7. And good avoiding action there by David O'Reilly. This time to not get caught up with Jury. But yeah, Kotochville, I think, is just... you can tell he's got no front downforce. The number 42. Oh, nice little spin turn in the runoff. But he is just struggling at every corner, unsurprisingly, with the damage he's sustained. As you Batala, spinning it out of 16 and 17. And lucky he didn't reverse back onto the racing line there. But a bit of a tricky moment there for the Spaniard, who has not had the greatest of luck last couple of races. And this is David O'Reilly. What's happened to David? Oh, he spun it coming out of turn 3 as he kept his front wing just about. So good reactions there, although ideally you don't want to spin in the first place. As Sigurd Frey done the same thing. Oh, but he's lost his front wing in the process. So that's the difference between the turn 3 spin, I guess, as Sigurd
and he's got a wheel
is out.
Now.
Well, there we go. Let's see how that happened. Into 14. He goes a little bit deep onto the curb. Again, spins, and I think in frustration he tries to do a bit 360, but finds the wall blocking his path. So Sigurd, unfortunately, that is our sole SimSpark out of the running then, as we see Van den Hudding is about to lap Jury Kotochville as O'Reilly has gone into the pits here. So this could be a bit tense here with some of the traffic being caught a bit earlier than expected. Van den Hudding has got a few more roadblocks to clear, and he has got Cedric Bill starting to catch him. He was 6/10 quicker that previous lap, Cedric Bill. So now it's a good thing that he cleared Singal relatively quickly and played it safe on the first lap, because now he is starting to ease himself back into contention here, as long as he can keep these softs alive, of course.
Yeah, and that's going to be the main thing. Obviously, Van den Hudding on the medium tyres. Someone just exited pit lane there, actually, so hopefully they're not going to get in the way of any of these two, and it looks like they will be. I think, is that O'Reilly?
Whoa! And Kotochville spins again. Oh dear. Well, that's one way to go to let David O'Reilly through. But
I was going to say, this is definitely the Formula Racing Championship, and not the Formula
Spin Racing Championship.
Gymkhana Championship or something like that, because there's definitely a lot of pirouettes going on.
Yeah, it does feel a bit Ken Block, doesn't it? The way they're trying to do it in the style of the late great Gymkhana driver. But yeah, nonetheless, not the right cars to really be doing that with, because they're not really designed for the rear tyres to be in decent shape after a few too many of those. And that's probably why we're seeing so many early stops, not just for new front wings, but because of the rear tyres just absolutely being put through their heat cycle. And you can see Cedric Bill having cleared David O'Reilly quickly. Now it's Canzonieri's turn to clear. So this is turning quickly into Valet versus Bill here.
Yeah, it's whether or not, like we said, can Bill hold on to those softer tyres, and whether or not the strategy is going to work in his favour. This is not so much the cork in the bottle anymore, is Single. That's something I didn't think I'd ever find myself saying, but I don't know, I'm guessing he's found some pace, or he really was just looking after those tyres. As he's now, we see one of the other optimal cars.
Elekis, isn't it? In his first start, trying to go around the outside at 16 on Perseus Miram, who goes a little deep, but again, Elekis cannot quite get the power down out of that 16-17 chicane as they start lap number 10 then. And Persis Miram, you can sense a bit vulnerable here. And Saba Elekis looking, I believe he's Hungarian if I'm not mistaken, looking to make a mark on the FSR Pro Championship in his first start as he replaces Sander van Leeuwen for the rest of the season. And so no livery yet because it was such a late entry. Really a day or two ago he was announced as being in that car essentially. But yeah, Leki's is certainly doing well to stay in the top 10, having qualified 9th. And him and Persis Miram seem very evenly matched, although they are about 7 seconds adrift of this battle. As you see David O'Reilly having to get out of the way of the Optiminals. He's let Singo through. He's let Gallinamartis. No, he's not quite let Gallinamartis through. Gallinamartis and Akai, if anything, are being held up over the Anderson Bridge. And this is allowing Singel to break a second or two away. And now O'Reilly does find a moment to pull to the left-hand side. And the problem with all being so bunched together is he's sort of got them, let them all through at once, as old Sweezy's going to arrive quite late to the scene into turn 14. And again, he has to wait for his turn to be let through here. So this allowed the 5th place battle to bunch together and 4th place to sort of escape up the road ever so slightly.
Yeah, and now we got
Akayan bumps the wall.
Bit of a bump there, but nothing too major. But now under pressure from Massa behind as a result of being stuck behind the back marker.
Yeah, there we go. And Nandor Massa, certainly one of the more underrated drivers. He's had 2 top 6 finishes this season in Australia and at Silverstone. He was 8th last time out at Spa as well. But yeah, Massa was always a sort of fairly consistent point scorer for Ground Effect a couple of seasons ago in Academy. And as he moves up to Pro, here comes Akayan up the inside of Gallinamartis into turn 7 there. And with the DRS open, push to pass in effect, I think Akayan saw that one coming. Gallinamartis, I think, saw that one coming and decided not to fight him too hard. But now Gallinamartis finds himself very much at the mercy of a very fired up looking Nandor Massa, who's fighting for his best position, his best finish in the Pro Championship to try and equal it, which would be a sick position.
Yeah, and you just saw there coming out of turn 3, both cars. That's in the wall. Who's that in the wall?
It's Kiri Kotochville, and he's out of the race surely because the entire front end of that car is destroyed. So he's just had a moment on the chicane on the run into Anderson Bridge, and clearly got a little bit sideways. So I think this is the replay where on board with Kiri Kotochville, loses it over the curb, tries to save it, and ends up going into the other wall on the right-hand side.
Yeah, he pretty much was already out wide out of the Singapore sling, and it basically just compounded into the bridge, which, ended the race for him. He'd been abysmal for him today. Obviously, lost the front wing as well, and early bath, and he probably was looking forward to that as such. But just going back earlier, we saw where the 2 Optiminals having a traction battle pretty much out of turn 3, and that's how Gallinamartis managed to get ahead of Gallinamartis.
Indeed. So it was lucky there that Kotochville crashed when he did and not right as they were trying to lap him. It's a high pressure situation when you know you're going to be lapped at a circuit like Singapore. It really can make the mind do all sorts of crazy things then, as we see a little bit of a sideways moment for Demolians out of turn 3 as he chases down Jared Batala. So Demolians, starting from the pit lane, has got his way up to 13th, and Batala, struggling a bit in these early doors, sees himself under attack from Demolians, who is in DRS range. We should also, by the way, a little bit further down the road behind them, we should give a shout out to Leila Petraglia, who has had a bit of a tough day, I think, to put it mildly. A couple of personal family-related issues that I don't want to get into on stream. But Layla has said, I really want to do well today, and I'm going to prove that I belong in the Pro Championship, is what she was saying to me, basically. And she's definitely doing that so far. P14, and not too far off the back of that battle. Oh! And Batal has spun, so there we go. That is certainly let Demolians through. And now Layla Petraglia is going to be within about 10 seconds of him.
Yeah, and Petraglia was running quite well.
This is a replay. Yeah, he has a moment. He loses it quite early on through the Singapore sling, and Demolians has to slow right down to get through.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, Petraglia was running quite well. The Sweezy's actually pitted by the looks of things. Or is that just a glitch on the timing? No, Sweezy has indeed pitted.
Yeah, so Amin Sweezy's our first pit stop from the top 8 then. So what will the Cellspot driver do? You would think he put on hard tyres at this phase, except that he's putting another bit of mediums on his Demolians. Oh, trying to go for the tiny little gap there, but he reacted exactly right there, did Olivia Demolians, and as a result, he's into 12th position now and looking to sneak into the top 10 despite missing that formation lap there. Sweezy is taking advantage of that big gap to come out ahead of Demolians on those fresh mediums. So he's got a big amount of clear air he can use to catch up to Feligny. And this could be a big undercut for the Cellspot driver here. And are we going to see any of our other medium runners respond to that? The likes of Eleki's Miram, who's obviously going right behind him, and then Marsa, who's still right behind Galamatis. He might fancy that undercut at this phase.
Yeah, and well, if the mediums can only, or if he's only managed to get the mediums to lap 13, that suggests that he's going to go to roughly lap 26, lap 30 on these mediums, and then I think he'll probably go to the end on some hards. But his
oh dear, he lost it very early in the curbs at turn 2 to Vincentievich, and he's lost the front wing too as collateral there. So the MV Conquest driver down in 14th position. He's now almost going to be easy prey for Petraglia, who I think is right behind him now. As we look at Marsa continuing to chase down Galamatis, trying to put the Greek driver under pressure is the Hungarian here. And you can see up ahead of them, Akhain and Single not too far up the road as well. We haven't talked much about the lead fight. Bill has not really been catching Van den Hudding anymore. He was about 4 tenths slower the previous lap. In fact, but he was still 2 tenths quicker than Canzonieri. So it really feels like Van den Hudding and Bill are the two that have really taken control of this race in the first stint. Canzonieri is another 5 seconds behind Bill, as now we see Batala dives into the pits, and given his spin, he was really struggling, so it's probably worth Batala putting on the hards and seeing how far he can get them to last here.
Marsa very close to the ball there in chase of Galamatis, and getting it sideways as well out of turn 13, so he's going to carry on in 7th position. I mean, very interested and very impressed actually with Cedric Bell managing to hang on to those softs as long as he can, although I would probably expect to see him coming in sometime soon, because and as I say that, he does come in.
It's almost like he's telepathic, isn't he? These drivers are really starting to communicate well with you, aren't they, Ryan? They're listening at least. And now Cedric Bell is going to surely have to put the medium. The advantage here of putting the softs on is that he could potentially go hard, medium, or medium hard to the end here. So he's got a lot of flexibility. He could maybe even go medium, medium if he could stretch them long enough as he comes out behind Marsa, but ahead, crucially, of Perseus Miriam. So he's got his teammates either side of him. Cedric Bill is in a good position here. This could put pressure on Van den Hudding, who actually, Van den Hudding, just before that in-lap, he was actually 2 tenths slower than Cedric Bill. So Bill had started to fight back a little bit there. And I wonder, Van den Hudding had that a 4-second gap, didn't he? What's the move going to be from Valet here?
Well, I think he's Van den Hudding's at least got maybe a lap or two's cushion before they've going to have to start thinking about picking themselves. Not quite sure how strong the undercut is here, but it would take a little bit for Bill to get the tyres up to temperature, but it won't take too long, and he definitely has pace today.
Yeah, Sweezy, by the way, having pit, is slapping in the 1:34.4s, so 6 tenths quicker than the race leader then. So the undercut can be quite powerful here, but you have got to make sure you're not too exposed in the latter phase of the race. Here is Nando Marsa continuing to chase. If anything, Galamatis is starting to catch back up to the back of Akhain, as Van den Hudding does have to pit immediately to cover off the threat from Cedric Bill here. So that is absolutely fascinating. And Van den Hudding and Kanzuri both coming in. So Valet decided to do the double stack. They were about 10 seconds apart. I don't think they're in quite the same pit box either. Or actually, they might be, because they are teammates. So I think they do have to share it.
Van den Hudding's gone for the hard compound tyres for this stint, so he's going to go for a long middle stint. I don't know if he's going to finish off on the softs, potentially, or the mediums again.
It looks like they're all favouring the mediums here, apart from Van den Hudding, who has gone on to the hards. And Van den Hudding, crucially, has come out ahead of Nando Marsa and Cedric Bill there. So they've got Marsa in between. As look at this, up the inside goes Van den Hudding on Gallimartis there. So again, another car put between himself and Cedric Bill there.
Yeah, and Van den Hudding was quite lucky that he had Gallimartis there to take the DRS, because Marsa behind also had the DRS on Van den Hudding. So fairly lucky there, and he's managed to put himself two cars between himself and Bill.
Our problem now is he's got to pass not only Akain, but Single again, like he did at the very start of this race. So Istvan Single sort of doing the run long and be a roadblock strategy, which is we're not used to seeing from him by any stretch of the imagination. But Optimal have sort of got to roll the dice to try and at least put Valet off in this race, because they know they've been outfoxed at the start. So they've got to find a way to get back into this one, at least to run long and get fresh tyres in that middle phase where everybody else who's pit early could find themselves a bit more vulnerable.
Well, I'm not sure if, like we said earlier, with Single running at a slower pace, whether or not he is trying to stretch this for just a single stop strategy. It will be a long shot, but it looks like they're trying to do that.
Bill is caught up to the back of Marsa now as Gallimartis dives into the pits out of the way. So yeah, Van den Hudding though is already lining up David Aghayan, who gets a little defensive. Look at that little weave across the track into turn 4 and 5 as they now ready themselves for the long run into Memorial Corner. It's deceptively bumpy here as they go towards the braking zone. Van den Hudding, DRS wide open, dives up the inside, and it's another Optimal added to his hit list there. Van den Hudding up to P2, and it won't be long now before he challenges Single once more as Marsa has moved out of Bill's way there, and sensibly so.
Yeah, a bit surprised there that Aghayan didn't defend a little bit more. Obviously, not too much team orders in effect there. As we see Sweezy down the inside of Feligny, and that's a good move there for Feligny, trying to get back on some form of switchback, but just lit those tyres up, and now is under pressure there from Gallimartis.
That's the difference between the fresh tyres and 16-lap old tyres as well. Sweezy only pitting 4 laps ago is flying out there. He's actually still a tenth quicker than Single on the mediums, although at Single, of course, you would expect to be able to make up the difference here. But look at this, Van den Hudding is going to go around the outside in the entry to turn 16 and 17 there, and nothing Istvan Single can do here. And now it's Cedric Bill potentially that could be held up by these two Optimals of Single and Aghayan that are running long here. But you sense frustration from the cockpit of Istvan Single, because Van den Hudding is disappearing up the road on the hard tyres as well. So he's going to be running along in this stint, and there's nothing he can do about it. Istvan Single, for once, looks absolutely powerless.
Hudding looking like he's in a rocket ship in comparison to Van den Single. He was just like a sitting duck and just completely powerless. It was almost like he'd missed a gear.
Yeah, Persis Miriam dives into the pits for his first stop. Canzonieri is lighting up the timing screen as well. Oh, a little wiggle for Bill as he goes round the outside of Aghayan. Crucial move for his race. Cannot afford to let Van den Hudding escape Aghayan's round. Oh, dear. And that's one way to let Nando Marsa through, but certainly not ideal for the German there. David Aghayan just doing almost exactly what we saw Feligny do, except that he actually completely got sideways and had to end up doing a 360 essentially to get facing the right way again.
Yeah, and Aghayan back running as we look further back to Feligny on Gallimartis. Or is this
DRS driver? Yeah,
Feligny.
that's a Gallimartis passing him, I think, having made his stop just a lap ago. So yeah, we are seeing overtakes being made. It is trickier than you'd expect to overtake at Singapore, but there are opportunities then, as we're about to see a replay of Elekis, what happened to Saba into turn 7 days ago, just a little bit long over the curb, and has a bit of an off-track moment before continuing. But he is still running in a pretty tidy P7, although there are drivers behind that have pit that are going to be overtaking him. And this is what happened to Aghayan there. Good reflexes to save it as well as he did. That could have been a lot worse for the Optimal driver there.
Yeah, and now it's back to the front with Single under pressure from Bill, and Bill's going to have the DRS coming down this straight. I think this is going to be easy pickings here.
Yes. We did have a question. Has current race leader pitted yet? Yes, he has, although if that was asked a lap to go, as we see, Canzonieri and fighting away with Akayan as Bill clears Istvan Singel, and Singel again, those mediums just fading compared to the new mediums as we see. There we go, Canzonieri does clear David Akayan and gets up to 5th place here. So Canzonieri has sort of, because he pipped and ended up further back in the pack, he's really lost out in this first phase, I have to say, because Bill and Van den Hudding are basically in a race of their own, and Canzonieri, for me, is kind of having to race to get back through to 3rd rather than fighting for the top 2 positions ahead of him.
Yeah, and this is what was looking like a fairly easy day for him. It's been made a bit harder, although the guys ahead have still got to pit, so he's going to find himself in 3rd pretty much.
Yeah, look at Single last lap, 136.3. Canzonieri is having 134.3. So, yeah, 2 seconds faster per lap. And we got Nando Massa 135.5, who's only 1.7 seconds behind Istvan Singel. So, yeah, Massa's another driver that's actually really preserved those mediums quite well and is doing, actually starting to catch up to Singel overall. So, both Master and Single on a very similar strategy here. But keep your eyes on those lap times of Van den Hudding and Bill. Bill actually 3/10 slower than Van den Hudding, despite Ruben being on the harder compound tyres. They are 1 lap fresher, of course, so that makes us a bit of a difference around here. But you would expect the mediums to be at least able to match there, and that really shows you that Van den Hudding, as he said, I think he woke up very much on the right side of bed this morning. As we see, I think that's Leila Petraglia being lapped by the race leader there.
Yeah, and could it also be a sign that Bill's just pushed a little too hard in the early stages of this stint and just taken a little bit of life out of those tyres, and or is he just going a little bit more on the sort of conservation side of things?
Oh, he almost tried to weave to let one of the MV Conquest, I think that was Vincentievich, know he was there, and he nearly hit him in the process. So that could have gone spectacularly wrong, but luckily the blue flag's in effect. Leila Petraglia moves out of the way, and Leila gets going before Vincentievich can unlap himself in turn, because I think he's 2 laps down, whereas Leila is just the 1. But yeah, Cedric Bill able to carry on, and with a bit of clear air, will hope to close the gap to Van den Hudding. It could be, as you say, he might be conserving the mediums so he can go soft, medium, medium, whereas Van den Hudding might be going quite aggressive, sort of medium, hard, and then, well, could he be going hards to the end? I very much doubt it. I think he might pit for mediums near the end, but he'll be able to push them a bit harder than Bill, who I think might be trying to do it. They're doing the same amount of stops, but the stint lengths are wildly different, as we now see Single and Massa finally making their first stops.
Yeah, I feel with the pace that Hudding, or Van den Hudding, is running at the moment, I can't see him going to the end on this set of tyres. So unless he can just eke it out long enough, he can do a stint on softs for the end, maybe. And they're side by side on their pit exit.
Very quick stop. Oh dear, it's a tight pit lane exit there, and Istvan Singel, the championship leader, is facing the wrong way. Lucky he doesn't get disqualified, and is he trying to drive against the flow of traffic there? He is in a very awkward position with a damaged car, and he's going to now try and continue. There we go, but that was a horrible moment with him and Nando Massa. Massa had the quicker stop, was a little bit behind, but he was on the outside on the sort of racing line, and he couldn't really unlock wheels without slowing down, and by that point it was too late, or breaking the limit exit line. As there we see, this is them coming in. Massa, aggressive pit entry. He's trying to get into his box earlier, and indeed does so. So it happens on the pit exit here. Talk us through this one, Ryan.
Obviously, Massa getting away. He goes into the fast lane first, and then just as he pulls into the fast lane, you see Sorry, no.
I think Massa thought he was clear. Massa thought he was clear, the rear left reel.
In that situation, Single should have given way. In my opinion, you know, it goes into a single track road, and he was behind at that situation, so he should have given way. And I wouldn't be surprised if I see a penalty coming Single's way.
Oh dear, well, he's already down to 10th in the race, and this all of a sudden is a huge opportunity, not just for Giuseppe Canzonieri and Ruben van den Hudding, but for Valle as a whole to close ground in that championship. As we see, in comes Elekis and Akayan. Let's hope we don't see another Optimal squeezed into the wall on exit here. as they're going to come out, I think, just ahead of Istvan Singal, depending on how quick these stops are. Matej Feligny flies through, and it's just another 5 seconds, I think, until Singal appears on the scene. Akayan is already out, and there is Singal ahead of Alekis then. So, yes, Istvan Singal now finds himself with a lot of work to do in the next 30 laps.
Massa just going through as well on Alekis, so position gained there. This is the battle. Sweezy going up into 4th position, so he's having great fun on those medium tyres.
Yeah, huge undercut. He's pit 4 laps before Galnamadis and come out ahead of him now. So Amin Sweezy's legitimately fighting now with Singal basically on the back foot, having to recover with potentially a lot of damage as well. 2 minutes 06 that last lap, including the pit stop and the reversing against the flow of traffic. I think there's at least one penalty, that he could be potentially under investigation for. As now we see Galnamadis desperately trying to clear Sweezy, but he's got Massa closing in behind, who survived that brush with Disaster. And now we have got Go Team, Optimal, and Cellspot all fighting for P4 here. So this is a great little fight, even though we've also got Cedric Bill, remember. He was 4/10 quicker than Van den Hudding that last lap. He's starting to ease in to that lead that Van den Hudding has got. So Van den Hudding could just be trying to nurse the hards now, or are we finally seeing the pace of the mediums unleashed?
Yeah, and obviously Sweezy being on those tyres a little bit earlier than everyone else, he is going to see a bit of a drop off towards the end, so he's going to again have to pit a bit earlier. So assume if he's already run, did Sweezy run the, no, it was Bill that run the softs, so he's going to have to go onto something different, either some softs or the hards for the last stint.
Yeah, it's interesting because it does seem like a lot of teams, they don't want to use the soft because it burns up too quickly. So Bill only did 14 laps on it, which is quite comparable to some of the medium stints. But as we see, Van den Hudding set the fastest middle sector of the race in response. And that middle sector was 4/10 quicker than Bill's as well. As look at this, Sweezy starting to feel the pressure from behind. But he is starting to slow up Galnamadis, and Nando Massa set a 1:34.0, his personal best lap of the race, which was over a second quicker than Sweezy and Galnamadis in front of him.
Yeah, this is Singal on the back of Feligny now for 8th position. And yeah, I think Singal will be definitely driving a bit angry now. We'll wait to see.
Driving wounded as well, I imagine, having been squeezed into the wall, even at low speed. The steering wheel looks mostly straight, but he'll certainly be feeling some car performance effects from that damage then. But yeah, certainly DRS will still be in effect, and Singal has still got his driving skills and talent that he can rely on, as Ruben Van den Hudding sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:33.7. So while it is all going wrong for Singal, Van den Hudding is absolutely flying here. So this championship that looked like it was going to be Singal 21 points clear of Cantoneri, just sauntering away race after race, has now seen a big spanner in the works here, and Singal has got to fight his way through the pack to limit the damage that they inflict on him.
Yeah, and this is a little battle again, still heating up for 4th position. Galmatis with the DRS down into turn 5, I think that is. No, it's turn 7, and not quite close enough, but they got Massa also not too far behind as well.
By the way, just for perspective then, if it finishes like this, as I think Istvan Singal now in 9th position, using the DRS in the back of Feligny.
Just gone up to 8th.
Oh, there we go. He has cleared him there. So Singal moving quicker than we can commentate. So that would be 8 points going the way of Istvan Singal, and 25 going the way of Ruben Van den Hudding. So Van den Hudding would gain 25 minus 8. That is, as we see Singal, this is the replay of the move then, up the inside of Feligny into Memorial Corner, and the DRS driver undone by the DRS there, ironically enough, as we said so many times this season, and taking great pleasure in doing so. But yeah, Istvan Singal then needed to make that move, and he certainly still got the pace to recover up. He did set a 1:36, but that was with the overtake there. The problem is it's now 9 seconds to his teammate David Akayan, so Optimal might employ some team orders. Galnamadis wide at the final corner. Massa now very, very close into turn 1, which of course is shears, but he's not able to mount a challenge then. And I think there's a bit of a DRS train behind Sweezy that's forming here.
Yeah, and looks well. Actually, I'd probably say Sweezy's now going away, so Master's going to get the job done nice and easy down the straight here.
Oh, bumped the wall with the DRS open, which is quite brave and bold. But yeah, Nando Marsa not afraid of anything. He wasn't afraid of Istvan Single. He's certainly not afraid of Galinamadis, and he's cleared all the optimals to get into 5th. And could this be the start of a podium charge? Maybe. I think Canzonieri a little bit too far down the road, but 4th place is definitely up for grabs as we now cut back to Elekis, who is closing on Perseus Miram now to try and get back into the top 10 here.
Yeah, and just on the coattails of 10th position, not too bad for a first run out for the Optimal team.
No, not bad at all. And he certainly was very, very keen about starting in this. And I'll be interested to see what else he feels. Sabralekis feels like one of those drivers that I've seen in and around various leagues competing for different Hungarian teams. But I struggle to remember any big sort of notable achievements off the top of my head. I'm sure he's been around and had some success in sim racing, as we see David O'Reilly again dutifully moves out of the way. Was that? It must have been O'Reilly because it was the dark blue car, of course. But yeah, O'Reilly in the final points paying position, 2 laps ahead of Vincentievich. So we could well be looking at O'Reilly and crucially Leila Petraglia getting her first points and the first points for the ELK team, the way things are going. But fingers crossed at half distance. I haven't just put the curse on them. David Akhayan sets the fastest lap race, 1:33.6, to actually extend his gap to Istvan Singal. He sets a 1:34.2. And now look at this as Feligny comes into the pit, but Elekis is right behind Miram in that fight for what is now 9th. But yeah, Feligny running long in the first stint, longer than anybody else on the mediums. He finally puts the hards on. So this is a one-stop, surely.
And he's going to, like you said, he's going to go long. He's going to do one stop. Could be a bit painful towards the end, but whilst everyone else stops, he's going to find himself a bit of a roadblock potentially towards the end of the race.
Yeah, and it's crucial that Akhayan is lapping as quickly as he is, because you can see Sweezy really holding up Marsa and crucially Galinamadis. So Optimal again have got a different driver that's looking the fastest at this phase of the race then. So a difficult situation to manage them, but this is turning into a really strong race for both Valet and indeed for Go Team. And let's not forget Self-Spot as well, with Sweezy doing that bold undercut and at the moment holding on to track position, but he's done 13 laps on the medium tyre and they are starting to fade at this point. 1:35.6 last lap around. He sent Marsa could be a lot quicker if only he didn't have that Self-Spot blocking the way in front of him, but as long as he's stuck behind, then he remains trapped in this situation with no way of escaping, and he's got all the Optiminals starting to close in behind.
Yeah, he's going to be potentially close enough for DRS down the straight, but I don't think he's going to be close enough for a move at turn 7. So although he may be about to prove me wrong, and he's closing very, very quickly.
Defensive shapes. Yeah, but not defensive enough. Round the outside goes Nando Marsa, and a little bit of a clip of the front wing of Sweezy there, as Sweezy tried to defend the inside. But yeah, Nando Marsa up to P4 now, and not a moment too soon, because he's 23 seconds down on the final step of the podium, occupied by Giuseppe Canzonieri. Unsurprisingly, with DRS open, Marsa sets the fastest first sector race, 27.7. But look up front, though. A 10th slower this lap was Bill. We had 12 laps on the mediums. I think you're right. Cedric Bill may have taken the best out of them, and Van den Hudding now is starting to really get into a rhythm in those sort of mid-34s, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Cedric Bill is seeing his progress ever so slightly falter here, and in fact, Canzonieri behind, he is just under 9 seconds behind him, but he was 2/10 quicker that previous lap on his own set of mediums. Canzonieri having pit, I think, a lap later than Cedric Bill. So this is where Go Team have got to make up their mind in terms of strategy. Do they give up now, put Cedric Bill on the hards, or do they take advantage of the starting on the softs and hold out for another set of mediums that they can use legally in this part of the race if they can extend long enough?
Yeah, it's, well, going for the mediums. I definitely want to take that over the hards. It's whether or not actually if they can extend long enough, if they can go for a soft option. As we saw, they can manage 14 laps on the softs.
Oh, look at this. Galnamadis looking for revenge on Sweezy. Around the outside he comes. And it's going to be close in the braking zone. They just avoid making contact there. Sweezy had to be very, very compliant. Oh, and a dive from Akhayan into turn 8 there. They go side by side. Akhayan lets the rear tyres absolutely hang out as he tries again to go around the outside of turn 9. And he's fishtailing all over the place. Opportunistic, but no way through. Sweezy's already lost 2 positions. He's not about to lose a third.
Yeah, no traction control to be seen there from Akhayan, and obviously very eager to find a way through, and that's another way to try and get through, but he doesn't get through on Sweezy.
Yeah, Sweezy really struggling under braking into turn 13 there, and now getting defensive into 14. The sell spot, the tyres have got several spots on them and are past their sell by date, I think, at this point. And Sweezy now with a bit of a conundrum here because he's surely pit lane bound soon. But does he now switch to the hard tyres and try and get to the end? Or does he again try something a bit different? He's surely got to go for the hards.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too far to go to manage to get some softs to the end, so it's going to have to be the hards.
Yep, so he comes in to put those hards on, surely. Unless he's going to go 2 sets of softs, which would be quite unconventional. But I mean, Sweezy's surprised us before in the past, so it remains to be seen what he does. David O'Reilly has decided to do a soft stint. He's done 7 laps on the mediums, 18 laps on another set of mediums, and now he's gone for the softs. So it looks like everybody has obeyed the 2-tyre compound rule so far, apart from Olivia Demolians, funnily enough, and Perseus Miram, and everybody else that's gone medium in this race so far, which is actually the vast majority, as Sweezy gets out just behind Elekis crucially. So that's going to be free DRS surely if he can get close enough on this run, and indeed he does.
Yeah, DRS down on Elekis, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move.
Oh, he's closer though in that purple and black machine. Lovely livery. I think Cellspot have got one of the best liveries in the Pro Championship, although there is quite the variety. I am quite partial to the DRS livery as well, of Feligny, and I don't think there's a bad livery of the bunch. I think they're all very, very creative for different reasons. This is almost a shame that we had a mainstreamer drop out, so the quality is a little reduced as a result, but it is Singapore. It's quite intensive on the CPU with all those lights and shadows everywhere, so needs must. And Amin Sweezy then continues on his way as Layla Petraglia in the ELK moves aside. Layla running her own race, but still with a big gap to David O'Reilly behind. Petraglia could well be in a fight, as O'Reilly is actually starting to catch on those soft tyres by about, 5 seconds a lap, I think, almost. 4.5 seconds per lap then. So that really shows you that Petraglia having to let cars through is costing us so much time. So there is that race further down for that battle for the final points positions, and it is still very, very intense. And as Petraglia trying to keep Batala within a minute, but now Cedric Bill last that 0.3 quicker than Van den Hudding, so the gap 3.7 seconds. It is going a bit back and forth here, as Van den Hudding, I believe, having to deal with just a little bit of traffic, as I think he is actually starting to catch up to Feligny, who's not far up the road from him now, as he's Sweezy, if anything, a little bit further back on his hard tyres from Eleki. So I do wonder if the medium is just so much the tyre of choice here that everybody apart from Van den Hudding and Sweezy are desperate not to use the hards.
Yeah, I mean, the hard tyre, you wouldn't expect to see much performance from it, but it seems Van den Hudding's managed to extract a fair amount of performance, although Bill's managing to close a little bit on Van den Hudding now, it seems. It's no longer that just over 4 seconds, it's now just under 4 seconds.
So, yeah, Cedric Bill is continuing to press on. Last lap, 0.2, just under 0.2, a tenth actually, quicker than Van den Hudding then. So they are starting to meet in the middle in their strategies, essentially. Van den Hudding's done 15 laps on the mediums and the hards then. So, again, I do wonder if Van den Hudding is going to try and stretch this hard task stint so he can put the softs on at the end and cover off any threat that Cedric Bill might try behind. Whereas Bill is in the situation where he can maybe pit slightly earlier and put the mediums on, but that is surely his best play at this point in the race, given the strategy that he is on. Not seeing a whole lot of movement in the battle for fifth. Ganlamadis a second ahead of Akhayan, and then we got Singal nursing his damage. He's now fallen to about 15 seconds behind. but Single is still starting to pull clear of Elekis and Sweezy. I think Sweezy could be a genuine threat to Single. Now he's on those fresh hard tires now, because Sweezy is surely going to the end now, whereas Single is one of those who's gone medium, so he's got to stop again no matter what, as we see Sweezy up the inside of Elekis as if to prove my point there, but he goes a bit wide and Elekis immediately goes back through there. So good stuff from the debutant to keep his head there and immediately retake that position.
Yeah, a little bit too impatient there from Sweezy. He's definitely got the pace over Elekis, and he's trying to go as we see Canzonieri coming into pit lane.
This is a bit earlier than expected, because he's done 15 laps on both stints of tyres. That has been the Achilles heel for Giuseppe Canzonieri. He has been tyre wear this season in a couple of races, so him bailing out, going for the hards, makes sense, especially that he has just enough gap to Massa, or does he? Here comes Nando Massa. He's going to come out just behind on those mediums there, but he will get DRS here. So this is mission critical for Canzonieri to stay ahead.
Yeah, Canzonieri on the colder tyres as he just came out of pit lane. They're not going to be giving the most grip that he wants, and Massa's going to have DRS here. As you can see, what's Canzonieri going to do to defend?
Oh, he's going to the middle of the road, to the inside. Massa going full around the outside, and they again just avoid locking wheels. I've been so impressed that they've kept it relatively clean into turn 7, especially our front runners in the top 10, essentially. But that is crucial for Canzonieri's race. Again, he finds traffic that he has to fight through, and that will be music to the ears of Cedric Bill now, who knows he can extend that stint just a bit longer without fear of being undercut.
Yeah, and Canzonieri on those harder compound tyres definitely, eventually will find his way back through. Massa, as that's another Sweezy trying to get through on, what's that?
Elekis, yes. And he goes wide. But he does have the traction. There we go. So he did have to go wide through Memorial Corner and exceed track limits there to complete the move. I wonder if Elekis might argue against that one later on.
I was going to say, I'd probably say if this was F1 in real life or whatever, they'd definitely be saying he needs to give that position back right now.
Remains to be seen. Then let's see the replay. Sweezy is coming in at a vast rate, not struggling to get it slowed down and make the apex, and the rear just lets go of him. Yeah, he did suffer a bit of loss of momentum on the exit there, and then he had to sort of complete the move into 8, didn't he? So that's, I think, what Cellspot and Sweezy, who is basically the team owner as well of Cellspot, will be arguing as we cut back to Canzonieri, who's lost a bit of ground on those hards, as Marsa's absolutely taken advantage of this. So Canzonieri again, despite a tough day for Single, Canzonieri finds himself not really in position to take as much advantage as he'd like. Ideally, he'd like to be fighting Bill for P2, and he's instead fighting Massa for P3 at the moment.
Yeah, I think, but also for Canzonieri, the hope that he may have is that we do see some form of penalty going in the way of Single for his unsafe pit exit.
Yeah, definitely unsafe in the case of he ran out side by side and got tagged in the collision, and then went against the flow of traffic down the start finish straight.
Yeah, obviously he crossed the pit exit line, which is also another no-no. So I think there's probably about 3 infringements in one instant there.
It was going to be a long night for the stewards, unfortunately, not just for the drivers. But yeah, Single, to his credit, has kept going. 1:35.7 his last lap then, so he is significantly slower than his teammates. And Sweezy now on the hards is within about 9-10 seconds of him. So yeah, Single, we know will have to make another stop, and when he does, he's almost certainly going to come out behind Sweezy then. So Sweezy's got to take advantage in this stint while the hards are still relatively fresh and close in on him. Single was 3/10 quicker the previous lap, but now he's cleared Elekis. He has surely got the clean track that he needs, but his first two sectors on this lap, not especially quick compared to Single, I don't think, although he was 6/10 quicker in the first sector and actually a 10th quicker in sector 2, so I was reading the wrong driver there. So yeah, I take back what I say. Sweezy is doing a great job. Single up against it right now as we see the two Optiminals of Galamanis and Akhayan starting to fight each other here, and that's not what Optiminal will want. They will want them to catch up to Canzonieri if they can, but Canzonieri's cleared off since his stop, and he's Massa has very much had to push to keep him behind.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like there's going to be a position change coming up soon between these two, because it seems like definitely got the pace at the moment over Galamatis. But whether or not he can actually make that happen, because Galamatis seems to be very good through this middle sector.
Oh, and Bill is in. There we go. So is this going to be the first of our stops for mediums to the end? Or is Cedric Bill going to join the hard brigade like Ruben van den Hudding has? No, it's another set of mediums going on then. So Bill has been able to stretch his middle set of mediums to 19 laps, which is a pretty commendable effort considering others were doing as low as 13 or 14, 15 laps. So to do nearly 20 is a very, very solid effort. And again, as expected, he's come out well clear of Massa and Canzonieri then. I almost thought Bill could have stretched another lap out of that if he really wanted to. But now he's decided now is the moment for the undercut to try and keep the pressure on Van den Hudding here on those very decayed hards at this point of the race.
Yeah, it's whether or not, when does Van den Hudding respond? And this is a battle here, Massa versus Canzonieri. Canzonieri's going to go round the outside, which is going to be the inside into turn 7, and that is job done there. Yes, by Canzonieri.
Yeah, Massa saw that one coming quite early in advance and tried to defend as best he could, but he did well to hold on as long as he did then. So Massa is still, I think, nailed on for P4 at the moment, depending on where he comes out from his final stop, as he's another of those drivers that's gone medium, along with Akai, Galnamadis, Singel, and Elekis and Miram, I think, as Van den Hudding immediately pits in as we're looking at the replay of Akai and then making the move on Galnamadis, who gets out of the way for him. Very sensible then for the Greek driver to help his teammate out there and not impede his progress. Van den Hudding is surely going to come out of the pits on mediums and come out ahead of Cedric Bill, as we also see, I think, Petraglia making her final stop. Oh, no, it is mediums. There we go. It has just updated. And there we go. So the gap is going to be roughly what it was about 4 or 5 seconds in. So Bill has gained a little bit to get the gap below 4 seconds again. You can just see him in the background. But again, frustratingly out of reach. Van den Hudding has always had an answer. Has always had that little bit of margin to play with to prevent being undercut here.
Yeah, and Bill, well, it's basically, this is the race going on to the end. There's no strategy left, and it's just flat out to the end, essentially. For Bill, if he has any chance of catching Van den Hudding.
Yeah, certainly been his best performance of the season so far, Bill, and he could come away with his best result of the season as his teammate nearly hits the wall to get well out of the way. I think that was Batala lap down, just clearing the way. Indeed it was, so let's see a replay of that, I guess, as Jared Batala into turn 9 goes straight on. That almost felt like he didn't even know Bill was there, and he just had a moment all of his own almost. But all I'm almost certain now is just him letting him through a slightly awkward moment of the track and trying to be as unobstructive as possible. Ruben van den Hudding sets a purple middle sector there, but yeah, he's about 3/10 quicker than Bill. So Van den Hudding now starting to increase his stranglehold on that lead once again as we cut back to Demolians, still trying to get into the top 10. He's got Feligny right in front of him. The soft tyres deployed now by Olivier Demolians. He can't afford to go medium to the end like he did at Spa, so he's had to think a bit outside the box here. And Feligny on 10 lap old hards. They're still relatively fresh, but Demolians is just pit and should be a rocket in this final stint.
Did both of them just clip the barrier on the exit?
I think so, yeah, but look at this. Oh! Nearly clipping again. Demolians easily gets through, but he's way too deep on the brakes, and he's well into the runoff there. I thought Suisi had gone deep earlier on, but I think Demolians has beaten even that. And yeah, a grateful David O'Reilly unlapes himself.
Yeah, and wow. They come through turn 5. Yeah, definitely a touch there with the barrier. And I think it was just caught a bit off guard by how much momentum he was going to have, plus squeezed against the wall there. So didn't have the ideal line into turn 7.
I love the optimism of Olivier Demolians going for that one. But
well, you can't say he didn't try.
Interestingly, look up front, Cedric Bill sets the fastest lap of the race, but he finds Ruben van den Hudding 4.2 seconds ahead. So Van den Hudding extends the gap because he's been setting those personal bests, although Bill is starting to fight back on this particular lap, faster than Van der Hudding in both sectors. So there's still traffic that could play its part here for Cedric Bill. That's got to be his final hope here of winning this race.
Yeah, I think definitely a bit of frustration almost for Van der Hudding, because he set purple first sector, which was then taken by Bill. He then set fastest second sector, which was then taken by Bill. He's now set the fastest lap of the race, but that's now been taken by Bill.
So I tell you the interesting thing that's happening at the back here, speaking of David O'Reilly's, he's about to be lapped. So O'Reilly's done 10 laps on the softs, and I think he might be doing the Demolian strategy, or the Demolian has just pit on the softs, so I think he'll definitely be able to get to the end with a bit of tyre saving, whereas O'Reilly is in a bit of trouble here. So David O'Reilly naturally has been lapping a bit quicker than Leila Petraglia, but Petraglia has gone hard to the end. So this is sort of a tyre wear battle, essentially. Petraglia 3 laps down, O'Reilly only 2 laps down. No, they are both 2 laps down, 30 seconds apart. So if O'Reilly tries to go to the end from here, he could find himself in a little bit of trouble. So at the moment, he's got the sort of pit window on Petraglia. But Petraglia, by being a bit smarter on strategy, going for these 2 hard stints, is working her way back in. But again, she's having to let some of the leaders through as well. So her and O'Reilly sort of in a similar position here, where they can't really fight each other because they've got all the leaders coming through to lap them.
Yeah, and it depends how it's going to go. Is O'Reilly's tyres going to fall off the cliff before we get to the end of this race? I think
they will have to do 2 laps left and less than everybody else in theory. So
yeah, but it's still a tall order and a set of softs, so it's going to have to be another pit stop for O'Reilly, or yeah, those tyres are going to completely fall apart.
Yeah, just ever so slightly distracted because there's another race that I agreed to commentate on. They're doing the qualifying for at the moment. That starts at 7, so hopefully things can work out here as we're on lap 39 of 53. Ruben van den Hudding sets the fastest lap of the race conclusively now, 1:32.5, with an amazing middle sector, 38.8. So he's blitzed everybody there and set personal bests in the first and final sector. So Cedric Bill falls to 5 seconds adrift. And you do sense that the Frenchman may have to set off a P2 here, but both Van der Hudding, Bill and Canzoneri are all looking to gain on Istvan Singel now, as we see Ganlamades pit, although this is going to put Singel up into P5 unless he has to make his final stop now as well. Ganlamades, what tyres does he put on? Softs. So yes, this is all those drivers that have gone medium, now have to put the softs on, and that includes Nando Marsa, Singel, and Miram, who are the only and Elekis as well. All 4 of them are yet to change off the medium tyre in this race so far. So I think they're trying to stretch as long as they can so that the soft can comfortably make the end in this final stint.
Yeah, soft. Well, 14 laps he's going to have to do on those soft tyres, I believe, if my maths does me correctly. So not too bad. That is kind of what we saw earlier. Was that what Bill did, or did Bill do 16 laps on the soft servo?
He did 14, exactly.
14, so, exactly. So it can be done. We know it can be.
Yeah, let's see if Ganlamades has got the tyre saving abilities in his arsenal to deploy. 1:32.1, another fastest lap of the race for Van den Hudding. He is absolutely flying right now, just like we saw in that early stint. So now he's off the hards. Van den Hudding is off the leash, essentially, and this is exactly the sort of performance we saw from him at Austria and Silverstone, remember, when he was excelling in those races. So the Van den Hudding season, for me, is kind of a what-if, because we had that terrible race at Spa and the missed round in the opener in Bahrain, and of course he didn't finish in Melbourne either in round 3. So it's a season of highs and lows, and the highs have been absolutely spectacular, as Van den Hudding, who of course was so strong in the Academy Championship last season, had scored a couple of podiums and had given the front runners a lot of difficulty on alternate strategies, funnily enough, on a couple of occasions. As we see Marsa coming out the pit, Singel gets through. Will he lose another position as well? I think Akhayan is some distance behind, as I think that's a lap car Batala just ahead of him that will have to make way again. So Singel has got Marsa bearing down on him on soft tyres here, and Singel owes us another pit stop here. So Marsa has outfoxed him again, and Istvan Singel is looking at a very, very tough final stint of just having to time that final pit stop. Hope everybody else runs out of softs in the final stint, essentially.
Well, the thing you're also going to find is the cars are going to be running lighter on fuel, so it's not going to be taking as much pain out of the tyres. So they should be able to they should be able to go a couple laps longer, should they wish, on the soft. So I think they've got plenty of laps on those tyres.
Indeed they do, as we now see Marsa trying to chase down Istvan Singel, who is, it does look like Marsa having pit, of course, was only about, there you go, you can see him just up the road, 3 seconds up the road then, so Marsa is catching him at a rate of knots, even on this outlap. And Singel, as we see, just look how much later Marsa's able to break into 14 there. He's got so much more confidence on those fresh tyres. It's a brilliant feeling. And I think Van Hudding is experiencing a similar thing. Look at the gap. He's doubled it to Cedric Bill. 8 seconds now. Cedric Bill does not have an answer simply. At this phase of the race, Singel can see which way the wind is blowing, and he pits for his set of softs.
Yeah, and he's going to probably filter out somewhere. He's going to come out. No, he's going to come out. He may be amongst 9th and 10th, maybe?
Yeah, he's going to find himself quite a way down. Yeah, I think Aleckis and Miram might all have a chance to get through here.
Pitted himself, so.
Yeah, well, he's battled with Miram then on pit exit. Where is Perseus? Miram, I think.
There he is going off
ahead. Whoa. So Miram overdoing it a bit. So eager is he to get past the championship leader. I think, Batala a lap down behind. So yeah, Miram is ahead though by about 3 seconds. But Singel should be able to catch him. It's a question of Sweezy another 10 seconds up the road, which is going to be his target now. As we see, there is Aleckis in 10th position now on the soft tyres. He's good to go to the end. And Aleckis has had a few adventures today. As we see, I think Batala, that's a Go Team front wing that's hanging by the side of turn 4 and 5 there. So I think that may well belong to
Yellows. There's a car in the wall. And it's not Batala.
It's not Batala, okay.
Is it? No. This is the replay, so it is Batala, yeah.
He just went straight on there. It's like the steering completely died on him for a moment.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just carrying a bit too much speed into the corner. It just understeered, really, because...
there's something more seriously wrong with his setup there, because the wheel is not behaving itself.
No, that's not
very much out of the picture entirely. And that's a shame for Batali. He was still on for a couple of points there. But that is going to promote not just Feligni and Demolians, but also O'Reilly, Petraglia, and Vincentievich into the final points paying position. Crucial, though he is 3 laps down. Vincentievich has got to hold it together if he wants that 15th place and the point that comes with it. But big opportunity now. It means O'Reilly's looking at a couple of points more for 13th. That'll be 3 points coming his way, and Petraglia could be looking at 2 points coming her way if she can stay out of trouble. But she is within 18 seconds now of actually no, that's Batala being overtaken, and so that's not David O'Reilly. So we see Miram coming in, I think, again for that's him putting his set of softs. So he was the only one yet to pit then, as we cut to Demolians, who is stuck behind Feligni on the hard tyres. So we are seeing now hards versus fresh softs. So this could not be a more uneven battle in these closing stages, but can Feligni do anything to hold on to P11 here?
It's going to be a tall order. 10 laps to go. I think Demolians is going to be free.
Yeah, it's difficult to see Demolians being denied unless he goes really deep on the brakes into turn 7 like he did earlier in the race. But I think he's learned from that one. He's got the fresher tyres. They should give more grip. Singel sets the fastest first sector of the race. And here comes Demolians to the outside of Mattia Feligni. The DRS car. Just enough space left. And another twitching moment for Feligni. He's really struggled with that exit there. It's almost like the contact was a bit delayed there on the screen.
It was tough one there. And Demolians, I think, scoring points there, just riding it across the curb if this was Tony Hawk. But
grinding.
Yeah.
It's amazing there's no Tony Hawk game with a level set in Singapore at Marina Bay. That would probably be quite popular. They could just copy it off the Codemasters F1 games. I'm sure EA wouldn't mind. Anyway. Or indeed rFactor too, of course, given it's modelled here, and we're looking at it right now. But anyway, Demolians gets through into P11. Singel, that's the fastest lap of the race, 1:31.8. He is absolutely pushing it to catch up to Sweezy. Took nearly 3 seconds out of him that previous lap, and that is the difference between the softs and the hard tyre runners then. So I think the big fight here is going to be Ag Hyan trying to hold off Galna Martis. We've got Sweezy holding off Singel, and then we have got some of the soft tire runners hoping that the others in front of them are pit too early and start to just run out of tires in the last couple of laps. Then we've also got that Petraglia-O'Reilly fight, 22.7 seconds, I should say, between them. So O'Reilly, I think, is pit for a fresh set of mediums 3 laps ago. Petraglia is on 7-lap-old hard, so that is why they've closed up a little bit from the 30-second gap that they did have.
Yeah, and Single still closing, I think, on... Oh, no, he's not quite closing on Sweezy at the rate that I thought he would be.
It's still significant.
Yes.
Nearly 2 seconds quicker in the middle sector alone, and that really alone tells the story. And this is a race of really what could have been for Istvan Sinkel, because you can tell, like in qualifying, he's so much stronger on the soft tyre, isn't he? This is the stint he was waiting for, but he's lost so much ground with that collision with Massa that he's given himself so much work to do.
Yeah, he was definitely on course for a podium 100% today, I think, with this late race pace.
It would have been interesting between him and Canzonieri, because he'd be right ahead of Massa right now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but it's just one of those days. He can afford to have one of these days based on the points advantage he has, and the rest of his competitors have had more than just one of these days already. So
it sounded like Limp Bizkit now.
It's just one of those days.
Yeah, we don't want to wake up. Everything is not in great condition, to be politically correct. But anyway, Istvan Sinkel, or not profanity laden, yeah. Anyway, Istvan Sinkel then has got to close in on Sweezy, got to continue this momentum. He's cut the gap from 10 seconds to 4.9 seconds. But as you say, there is Sweezy. He is going to find himself starting to run out of laps. Sweezy knows he's got to break into 134s, I think, to respond to the pace of Sinkel here. As Sinkel sets another purple middle sector, 38.388. And yeah, really, the battle at the front, I think our podium places are very much decided. I think Van den Hudding 10 seconds now clear of Cedric Bill. As long as he doesn't make a mistake, he has got this win in the bag, and it could be another 100% win record for Valet in Singapore in Pro, with Sergio Fletcher, of course, winning so narrowly in that spectacular tight finish where Loic Moynier and Zolt Zux were challenging him in those closing stages, and then Moynier crashed out and Zux very, very nearly did, and Fletcher was just able to hold on. And in fact, quite coincidentally, I was commentating on Loic Moynier winning Super League, GPV Super League at Singapore on Thursday as well. So interesting to see former pro drivers really going up in the world. I wonder where Ruben van den Hudding is going to be next season as well. Could well be on the way to the World Championship if he can string more performances like this together consistently. Singapore seems to be another of his really, really strong tracks, as now we see Sinkel within 2.4 seconds of Sweezy then, as we are getting into 6 laps to go territory. That is 7 minutes to 7 o'clock, so that is merciful for me and for you, Ray.
Yeah.
It's a shame we had all those issues early on, otherwise we would be on schedule, but needs must, I guess.
Yeah, it's wow, it's gone on. I'm just amazed how Singles managed to gobble up this advantage. He's going to go down the inside here. No!
Oh, that's a tricky corner to make a move on. You really need a big tire delta to pull that one off, and Single didn't quite have the overlap. You can tell a bit of frustration here, but Sweezy will start to throw up defensive shapes, and this is where Sinkel will feel the tyres just starting to let go from under him in these final couple of stints because he's been pushing them so hard. So he needs to get through quickly here. Is he going to be close enough for a move into turn 1? They have similar exits here, so surely he is waiting for the DRS into turn 7 again.
Yeah, I feel Sweezy may be a bit of a sit and duck into turn 7 with the DRS unless he can get a better exit. He's had a good exit there, but is it going to be enough? They've got a back marker just appearing up ahead, I think. But this is going to be a good run here from Single. He's going to have to be very much on the defense. He's going to have the job done well before the corner, I think, now.
Yep, and indeed, through he goes into that 7th position, and that could be as high as Istvan Sinkel gets.
Oh, nearly a brush with the wall there.
Yeah, and there we go. Lucky escapes. So Sinkel is still going to keep pushing. Are Optimal going to use team orders? Because potentially there's a couple of position penalties coming Sinkel's way rather than time penalties, of course, as they did, because it is position penalties in FSR. You see David O'Reilly again having to let Sinkel through. Gallimadis is in that battle with Akayan, so he's not going to want to give up position. They're going to want to resolve their battle before slowing down 10 seconds. It does seem a bit unfair, given that Akayan and Gallimadis haven't really done very much wrong in this race for them to have to move over. But we did see them not holding each other up earlier on. And they are technically in a battle with Marsa, who's 5 seconds ahead of them, but Marsa is lapping about a second a lap quicker than them on the soft tyre, quicker than Akayan anyway, and indeed Gallimadis. So this is a tricky situation for Optiminal, and I think they may as well leave the cars as they are, because Single, it makes the championship more interesting for one thing if Single finishes 7th instead of 5th, but also, yeah, it's kind of unfair on these two who've done a brilliant job.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, as you said, it was Single's doing that's caused that to happen. So to be able to penalise the two ahead, I mean, McLaren, and that's been Sinjevich. Looks like he's thrown in the towel.
Yeah. Oh, he stopped on the exit of the pit lane right as somebody was pitting. So, yeah, he might report someone for cutting the... Oh, and he goes just after he leaves. Interesting. So it was Vincentievich just trying to report someone for cutting the pit exit there by causing an unsafe situation. That's bizarre. I can only assume not intentional. He must have had some sort of screen freeze or some sort of issue, pulled off to the side of the track. Oh, Petraglia spins and just avoids the wall there. So good reflexes from Layla, and she is still keeping it together in this race and is still on course for 2 valuable points. A lap ahead of Vincentievich. And a big spin with the DRS, and Layla is upside down. Does she get it going the right way up? That is, horrific accident there. If only this was like Robot Wars, you need a self-riding mechanism to get back over. And there we go. Amir Oates thinks of everything for the ERK team. And this is scary as we ride on board with Layla. And she's going to be seeing... so she just bumps the wall. So it was just a mistimed moment with the DRS open. And Alessandra Maggio did something very similar here last year in Pro.
Yeah, I think she was just taking too much of a tight angle through that corner, and obviously with the DRS you got less downforce at the rear end, too much steering angle, and the car just went pretty much there.
And if Vincentievich didn't have that moment where he came to a crawl at the exit of the pit lane, he might have a chance of catching Petraglia after that. But yeah, Layla now with a wounded ELK has got to get it to the end to get her and the team's first points in Pro, and she has really fought on, so full credit to her. That moment was scary for her, and it's certainly not the worst thing that's happened to her this week by any stretch of the imagination. And big commiserations to Layla and her family for a very personal loss, but Layla nonetheless, great to see her still in the race, and still within about 54 seconds of David O'Reilly. So O'Reilly, having to be lapped every half second, has kept Layla, even with that massive flip, in the frame. So O'Reilly can't afford to be too complacent here with just a handful of laps left to go, although he won't have to do that many of them, being 3 laps down, as now we see Gallimadis still chasing down Akayan, and Singel is about 8.2 seconds behind. He's been catching him about 2 seconds a lap, but Istvan is surely going to run out of laps unless Optiminal stack the deck in their favour and slow them right down here.
Yeah, and still very close, and I think there's still possibly a battle going to go on between these two, because they seem to be ebbing and flowing between the gaps. So still not over yet with a few laps left to go.
And I was just thinking about dinner there. Sorry, my mind drifted off there. This is what happens when you have commentaries that clash into each other. You're sort of having to do 3 things at once: eat, speak, and then speak on another broadcast as well. But anyway, lucky I've got my friend Chris Buxton helping out on that front. But nonetheless, 3 laps to go, and we're in for a pretty exciting finish between the Optiminals. But for Ruben van den Hudding, a second victory of the season is in the offing. And could we be in for a late charge here? Could Ruben van den Hudding win the last 4 races on the trot to sort of equalise with Istvan Singel? It would be quite the comeback to go from, he's on 64 points, so he's about, let's say, 78 points down, I think, in the championship. This could be quite the charge he's starting, but you could say the same for Cantoneri and Bill, who are both looking to cash in tonight as well. But we also have to praise the defensive job from David Akayan here on the hards, because they are 12 laps old. Gallimadis on 10 lap old softs, has not been able to breeze through here. And Akine has done a wonderful defensive job. And 5th would equal, I think, his best finish in the championship. So we have to praise that, although Istvan Singal refusing to give up even on a tough day. And that's the makings of a champion. Even on a day where everything's going against you, if you can just get the maximum score possible, then you know you did everything in your power to minimize the damage then. Mars are getting DRS from somebody. It must be a lapped car, but that's not going to make a big difference to his race. He is looking for a pretty solid P4, although he is starting to manage the tyres. He is still lapping considerably quicker than Akai and Galamatis behind him.
Yeah, and Galamatis with the DRS this time round, so that gap gradually coming down between the pair of them.
And we have also to look ahead as well to our next couple of pro rounds. We've got Circuit de America's brilliant track on November 2nd. That's going to be really, really fun ride, along with Suzuka and Mexico City Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. So a new track to everybody in FSR because it's not been used for many a year here, as now we see Galamatis again closing in. And the problem is as well, we've got the faster tyre, but it's wearing more quickly here. So Akine is looking stronger and stronger by the lap. You can just see Singal appearing in the background as well. But you do sense, even if he's lapping a second lap faster as he is, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah, that's the thing with Galamatis. He's going to have to be very, very careful with his throttle application. Doesn't want to take too much out of those tyres, but he still wants to be quick enough to stay within the toe of Akine ahead. And I think it looks like he's going to potentially get DRS again this time around. Although with a little bit deep into the corner there, may struggle.
Oh, a little twitch from Akine through turn 3, so he is starting to struggle on the hards as well. And this is going to be interesting. Akine again, a little bit tentative through turns 4 and 5 on the run into Memorial Corner. DRS, and he's not even going to fight that one. He lets him through. So Akine decides discretion, the better part of valor then. And Galamatis gets up to P5. And surely now the question is, how much is Akine struggling? And is Singal going to have just enough time to mount a final lap challenge for 6th position? I was about to say Singal would never have wanted his teammates to crash into each other more than now, but maybe he can at least get into P6 by his own merits.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be much in the team spirit right there.
Well, no, especially with Valet looking to take first and third here.
But yeah, this is Van den Hudden, who's dominated this race on this now penultimate lap. And as you said, barring any mistakes, he's going to walk this near 12 seconds ahead of Cedric Bill.
Yeah, Valet looking to take 43 points out of this one at the moment. Optimal looking to take just 22. So 22-43, that is that's a 22-point swing, isn't it? Or 21-point swing, isn't it? In the so that would halve the gap in the team's championship from 42 to just 21 points.
Yeah, and still very much to go. Actually, no, this is Singal on the back of Akine.
Oh,
so Akine moves over.
Yeah, and that's the penultimate lap. David Akine has to let him through then, so the hards just really being punished in this final stage. And Singal has had an absolutely fantastic final stint here, and has been comfortably one of the fastest drivers on track throughout it. And
Yellow's ahead.
P6. Oh, Yellow's ahead. Has Galamatis hit trouble? No, it is Petraglia, and she has lost her front wing then. She's still a lap ahead of Vincentier Vitchell as we see Akine continuing to squirrel out the rear tyres. But yeah, Petraglia is still on for P14, and this is just a case of surely Later has just got to coast it home to get her first points in FSR Pros. Van den Hudden has started the final lap. Cedric Bill fighting back 8/10 quicker that previous lap, but Van den Hudden has got more than enough in hand, you would think, to comfortably hold on here.
Yeah, and it looks like Galamatis is
backing off.
Single through as well, although as you said, they may see that position back again if he is penalised. So we'll see. But a great fight back through from Singal for 5th position.
Yeah, it's been a dramatic night, but yeah, Istvan Singal making the best of a bad situation. As you say, just one of those days for him. But it's been a brilliant night for Ruben van den Hudden. Took the lead into turn 1, pulled away. Cedric Bill tried to challenge, but could not really mount a consistent challenge there. Van den Hudden always was able to cover him off. And it was that crucial hard tire stint in the middle of the race that Van den Hudding really excelled. As we see Vincentievich getting well out of the way in the MV Conquest then. 3 more corners to go then for Van den Hudding through the last chicane and through turns 18 and 19 come the valet driver, and Van den Hudding takes his second career victory on one of the toughest circuits on the calendar. Singapore goes the way of Valet eSports and Ruben Van den Hudding. And that's a crucial night in the championship there, as we see Cedric Bill is coming through now to finish P2 to take his best result of the season so far. Canzonieri will finish 3rd. We also saw Leila Petraglia pitting on the final lap, so she will finish P14 and be classified there and take her first 2 points in her FSR career. And that is great news for her and for the ELK team on a very, very tough night. She absolutely came through, and coming through now is Canzonieri to cut the championship lead of Istvan Single by a considerable margin. In 4th will be Nandor Marsa, followed by Singel, Galamadis, Akai and Sweezy. Already finishing Alekis in his first appearance, finishes P9 from Miram, Demolians and Feligny. With David O'Reilly, our race director, he is going to get to the end in 13th position, I should say, ahead of Petraglia there, as here comes the championship leader, P5 on the road. But what will the stewards have to say about that collision with Nandor Marsa? Marsa also getting his best result of the season so far. So, dramatic night. As we wait for our final driver, 2 drivers, I think, to cross the line. We've got Sweezy, O'Reilly, and I think Petraglia is going to be classified as finishing in the pits.
Well, I think Petraglia's actually left the pits, so she's still going around on track at the moment.
My God, this race will never end. But later, at least has only got 1 more sector to go, and Van den Hudding is nearly back into the pits already then on his cool-down lap. So what an absolutely peerless drive. And you've got to say, that's 25 points well earned. He won in Austria. He very nearly won in Silverstone. After a blip in Spa, he's back to his best, is the Dutchman.
Yeah, and from coming up from the junior series as such, and he's really found his feet here. And it looks like this is going to be quite exciting towards the end of the season. It seems Single has got not just 1, but 2 competitors to race against this season.
Yeah, Valet have certainly maintained a strong challenge, and that team's championship for Optimal looks a lot more wonky than it did at the start of the day after a tough race. 5th and 6th for them, but 1st and 3rd for Valet. Both cars on the podium. Van den Hudding leading home Canzonieri. So let's remind ourselves of the final results. Ruben Van den Hudding wins by 9 seconds ahead of Cedric Bill in the end. Canzonieri is another 25 seconds down in 3rd. That shows you just how much fighting through the pack can cost you. Nandor Marsa, brilliant performance to take P4, surviving a clash with Istvan Single, who is classified 5th after a late fight back. Kostas Galamadis and David Akine round out 6th and 7th for Optimal. Amin Sweezy, great comeback for him in P8 after a strategy gamble pitting early on. Saber Alekis in his first appearance takes P9 after a really great first impression there. Persis Miram rounds out the top 10 from Olivia Demoliens, Mattia Feligny, David O'Reilly, our race director, takes 3 valuable points in P13. 2 great points, though, for Leila Petraglia and ELK. They get on the scoreboard at the 3rd time of asking. Mihaela Vincentievich, despite a pretty tricky race, does get the final point in 15th. Despite finishing 5 laps down, but not finishing the race, sadly, with Jared Batala and Jerry Kotochville and Sigurd Frey, who all retired with accident damage. So, round 7 in the book. Still 3 rounds to go, and it is Ruben Van den Hudding that takes victory, and Istvan Singal, after a bad night, still leads the championship, but by a vastly reduced margin. Now, coming up in just a few short minutes' time, Judo as overrunning is the World Championship, so make sure you don't miss that. But I have been Edward Hunter. I've been joined very dutifully in the commentary box by Ryan Ferris. We did have Petra Hanko helping out in the broadcast early on, but Thomas Lenz, our race director, dutifully filled in and did a fantastic job. So look out for World Championship in a few minutes' time, where Mark Schluter seeks to extend his championship lead from Sander Callas, Ruben Machete, and Patrik Hanko. So it could be a great night in Singapore World Championship, but congratulations to Ruben Van den Hudding and Valet eSports. Thanks for watching, and get ready for World Championship in a few short minutes' time. Bye for now.